What was the funniest police encounter you've witnessed? I once transported a man who sang ABBA the whole 2-hour drive. I asked if he was on something in case I needed assistance walking him in once we got there. He said, "No, if I have to be punished, so do you." So then we sang ABBA together. It was awful.
Did he know a bunch of songs or even one all the way through? Or was it just like, you can dance, dancing queen, over and over for 2 hours?
One that my dad liked to tell. He was behind a car at a traffic light and noticed that the driver seemed very nervous and kept glancing in the rearview mirror. It was a long light, so he had time to run the plate to check for any abnormalities. Sure enough, the driver had reason to be nervous, as he had stolen a shiny new sports car, and the marked police car behind him seemed to have figured this out. For whatever reason, Dad ended up in a lot of car chases in the 33 years as a cop, and started carrying a helmet to keep from getting banged up as much. When the car came back stolen, he reached over, grabbed his helmet, put it on, and tightened the chin strap. Expecting the guy was now going to run as the lights turned green, he caught the driver looking back at his now crash-helmeted self and gave a huge grin indicating he was ready for an epic car chase. As soon as the lights turned green, the driver went through the light and pulled over before Dad even turned on the lights and siren. When Dad got to the window and asked him why he'd pulled over, the driver said, "Sir, this car isn't mine, and honestly, I was gonna make a run for it, but then I saw you put a helmet on and I knew you meant business." Running a clearly intoxicated woman through SFSTs, or standardized field sobriety testing, I'm trying to check her eyes, which calls for her to keep her head completely still and follow my finger with her eyes only. Every time I move my finger to the side, she just keeps looking at my face. I remind her several times to follow my finger and eventually ask her if she plans on trying at all. She gently touches my cheek and in her slurred, drunken speech says, "How am I supposed to concentrate when you're so fricking handsome?" I was flattered. She later spewed on me at the jail. Ah, boozy and very flattering older ladies. I don't always miss working at bars with people like that, and I'm sure that any number of them could have ended up in a situation like this. The best one I ever had, I remember it was about 10 or 11 at night, not too early but late enough that it was easy to catch speeders on the highway, doing 30 or 40 over the limit. The speed limit was 90 km per hour and this vehicle is off in the distance and I clock him at a zoomy 70 km per hour. I think to myself that the only reason the vehicle is driving slow is due to impairment. I'm figuring an easy impaired charge. After pulling the vehicle over, I approach the driver, shine my light in, and see a very elderly gentleman. He looks at me and said something along the lines of, "Why did you pull me over? I know I wasn't speeding." I told him that I agreed with him, and after getting his license and vehicle registration, I told him I'd pulled him over for going so slowly, and that I worried he was impaired. There were no visible indications or odor of impairment. He let out a big smile and said he hasn't had a drink in over 40 years. Upon asking him why he was driving so slowly, when with very little traffic on the road most vehicles speed, his response was this: "Son, it was my monthly model train meetup tonight, and it's the one night my wife lets me go out by myself. When you've been married over 50 years, you appreciate the silence and private times. I'm in no rush to get back home." For our American readers, 90 km per hour is approximately 150,000 furlongs per fortnight.
Wow, he probably averaged 40 rods to the hogshead at those speeds.
Damn, that's a breezy 550 half-clops per daisy willow. Almost every time I've ever been pulled over, the cop takes my license and after calling it in, comes back with it and asks me to get out of the car. I get out, stand up, and they say, "Holy crap, I thought 218 centimeters was a typo." Then after some laughing and chatting, they let me go on my way. A couple of times they've even taken my photo selfie style. It's kinda funny and only the crustiest of the new recruits ends up writing me a ticket. I remember my friend and I were behind these factories that were near his childhood house. We always wanted to go back there and just look around. As we were down there, a cop car rolls up on us and I immediately thought we were going to get in trouble for trespassing. The cop asks my friend what we're doing here and then points to the sign where it said, "No trespassing." I was shocked by my friend's response. He begins to speak Spanish to the cop, telling him we were abiding by the law. He tells the cop in fake broken English, "We no trespassing. We only two people. Sign says no trespassing." I literally had to hold in laughter, but the cop burst out laughing and told us to go home. There's a homeless guy in my city who has a few mental issues. He's typically easy to deal with, so we normally leave him alone. But every now and again he'll do something that warrants an arrest or a trip to the hospital for a mental health evaluation, and when he realizes that he's about to be arrested, the very first thing he does is take off his clothes. This guy is about 5'2" and has absolutely the largest wang that any of us have ever seen. He'll then run into the street and dance with his giant dong flapping all over the place while we try to take him into custody. He will even occasionally drop a dookie during the process. Most of us officers who have some time will do anything to avoid him, or send the rookies to do the duty work.
Ah, meat spinning the first-timers, I see. Good work, Corporal.
You know what they say, crap flows downhill. My neighbor is a cop, and he just told me the story of how he pulled over a lady and her little 3-year-old kid who looked very frightened of him pulling over his mum. Before he could say anything, she said,
"Oh, honey, don't worry. Police officers are our friends. This nice man is supposed to make sure we all follow the rules."
Got the lady for 13 over in a pretty empty street, ran her information and was going to give her a ticket, since it was 13 over in a 35. The kid said,
"All right,"
when he started walking to his car.
"Wait, I'm having a birthday tomorrow. You don't have to bring anything. I just want all my friends there."
Too cute to ticket, and the mum said he could come by. Little man's getting a cool Lego set too. This sounds like the premise of a really adorable family movie. Cop comes to party and falls in love with single mom. Adorable child is what brought them together. I also want to make clear that policing is not an effective way to prevent or reduce crime. Abolition is possible. I wouldn't watch this movie unless it engaged with the cop leaving his job. Not me, but my brother. He was driving our family's 1980s minivan home and was flying down a hill. The cop nabbed him at the bottom and asked him if he knew how fast he was going. The only response he had was,
"Well, honestly, officer, the speedometer tops out at 85, so I really have no idea."
The officer cracked up, but still gave him a ticket. When I was still in field training, I was doing traffic stops with my field training officer, or FTO. We stopped this one kid who I felt like I'd seen before, but he also happened to have a warrant out. I said, "Hey man, I'm sorry, but it seems you have a warrant and I'm going to have to take you in today. Can you please step out?" He opens the door and glances back at my FTO and hesitated for a second. I saw him target glancing toward the parking lot across the street, so I asked, "You're not going to run on me, right?" And he said, "No ma'am, not from you. I've seen you at the gym."
"But you'd run from my sergeant?"
"Oh yeah, I've seen him at McDonald's." I couldn't hold it in. Haha. Can't fault the kid's logic, although I have to say that half the people I've seen at the gym can't run for crap either. Gains and cardio together, people. At a previous employer, our main data center was about 10 minutes up the road from the office. Trips between the two were commonplace, we all ran back and forth frequently. This day we were having a connectivity issue to an entire rack of gear, and I was flying over to the data center to troubleshoot. There was construction between the office and DC, and it had been there for weeks by this point. Fines are doubled in construction zones in the state I live in, and I'm usually careful to not speed in them because those tickets are expensive. Because I was mentally reviewing why we were down and in a hurry, I failed to see the motorcycle cop sitting dead center of the construction zone with his radar gun pointed in my direction until I was in third gear and 10 over the posted limit, which was 20 over the construction zone limit. He nailed me and we both knew it. Since I knew he was coming, I just pulled over into the next parking lot and he came in behind me. Damn. 30 over in a construction zone. This is gonna suck. I grabbed my paperwork out of the glove box and waited for him to do his preliminary check before he came over to talk to me. As he walked up, I greeted him by saying, "Hello, officer. I'm a dumbass, aren't I?" He stared at me for a quick second like he was trying to maintain his composure and just couldn't do it. Started chuckling, and then after a couple of seconds he burst into these deep belly laughs. Probably laughed for a good 30 seconds before he responded, "Well, just remember, those are your words and not mine." I admitted to the offense, but asked if he could please get me back on my way quickly because I had this fire going on at work. He was really cool about it. He still wrote me the ticket, but it was for 11 over, and he put the location as an intersection that was past the construction zone. That was about $900 less in fines that I'd be potentially facing, and made it an infraction I could take traffic school for instead of paying the fine. Super awesome guy. In conclusion, sometimes being cooperative and lightening up a not-so-great situation does help. I blew by a cop once, probably doing like 30 miles per hour over the speed limit on a back road. As soon as I blew by him, I knew I was fricked, but it was also hilly road, so I didn't actually see him pull out. But again, I knew that I was done, so I just pulled over and waited. Like 5 minutes later, the cop doles up behind me with his siren and lights on. When he comes up to the window, I just immediately said, "I'm sorry, officer, I was super over the limit there and that's my fault." And he was just like, "Why did you pull over? You probably could have lost me pretty easily." "Well, I knew I was speeding and I knew you were going to pull me over, so I figured I'd just make it easier for both of us." Then he told me how I was the only person who'd ever pulled themselves over for him and to slow down the next time on that road. Thanks, nice cop.
Pro tip: wait until the officer is at your vehicle and asks for a license and registration before you go diving into your glove box. It might look like you're jumping to grab a weapon, and police officers don't like that.
The only time I wasn't asked to get out of my car for a traffic stop was when I did this. I don't know what to think now. You can submit your own stories to be featured here on the channel. The story submission link is in the description below. And if you want to listen to some vibey music in the background, check out easymode, also linked below, and subscribe. Not a cop, but this happened when I was in like 4th or 5th grade as my grandmother was taking me home from school. Grandmother suffered from really bad IBS and was speeding to get home to use the bathroom. The cop pulls us over and makes it to the window, and my grandma says,
"Look, young man, I have bowel problems and I'm rushing home to go to the bathroom,"
and just pulls out and leaves. The cop runs back to his car and speeds to catch up with us, follows us through the next small town to her house. She gets straight out of the car and goes into the house, while the cop keeps saying, "Ma'am, come back here, ma'am, you can't go inside," etc. She totally ignores him. At this point, my grandpa pulls up because someone had called him at his work to tell him a cop was following my grandma through the 2 small towns and that they thought something could be wrong. Grandpa asks what's going on, and the cop starts telling him to go get his wife because she's in a lot of trouble. Grandpa just says, "What did you want her to do, crap in her purse on the side of the road? You need to leave before you embarrass my wife." The cop is flabbergasted and just gets in his car and leaves. Grandpa and I walk in the house and my grandpa is getting out of the bathroom and says,
"I need to go talk to that young man and get my ticket."
Grandpa tells her, "He was just following you home to make sure you got there safe. Are you feeling okay?" He gives her a kiss and goes back to work. Grandpa was classy, they both were. Miss you, Mormor and Pawpaw.
My uncle got pulled over once for speeding on the I-95. He said, "Oh damn, I got the highway sign confused with the speed limit sign again." The cop laughed and let him go with a warning.
This happened a while ago while I was attending EMT training. In order to keep the class from driving us all crazy from boredom, the other students and I would sometimes joke around and pull pranks on each other. One day, as we were all leaving and getting ready to drive away, I had the brilliant idea to roll down my window and pretend to get a call over the radio. After announcing that I was en route to the scene, I grabbed a suction cup adult eggplant toy that I'd hidden, purchased and used specifically for the joke, was destroyed after completion of said joke by the way, and slapped it on the roof of my car like some kind of old-school styled blue light. I then proceeded to scream like an ambulance siren and floor it out of the lot, much to the enjoyment of my classmates. On my way home, I was doing slightly over double the speed limit on a large highway when I saw flashing lights behind me. Being a stupid teenager, I decided to take an exit and then get back on the other side of the highway. I got pulled over but only then realized that I still had a rubber member sitting nice and tall on the roof of my car. My greatest fears came true when the officer walked up and recognized me from school, as he was the school patrolman. Miraculously, he let me go despite the absurd speeding and possible evading. In conclusion, I was an idiot, my car had a member, and the cop luckily wasn't a member. I wonder if one could potentially get done for indecent exposure while sporting such a hood ornament. Probably not, I suppose, but there are other charges that I might not even know about. Also, did anyone think that he was a bit defensive about having destroyed and never used that particular adult toy? Just me? My aunt is a police officer. Her favorite story at parties is how she once arrested a nearly undressed man who was running through a busy street. As she likes to put it, the only thing he was wearing was a rubber chicken, and he was wearing it through penetration. One time I was driving and saw a cop, so I rolled all 4 of my windows down at one time because my tint was illegal. The law where I'm from is that it has to let in 50% of the light or more, and mine was only letting in 20. As he got up to my car, he started laughing and told me he liked my effort and only wrote me a warning. My cousin had his windows tinted dark, but not too dark, and got a ticket. He went to court with the documentation of the window tint job, and the judge said he was good to go. Driving home, my cousin got pulled over for the window tint and got another ticket. The cop asked me if I knew why he had pulled me over. I said, "Speeding?" He said, "No, you rolled through a stop sign back there, but now that you mention it, it did take me a while to catch up with you." The cop, my friend in the passenger seat, and myself started laughing as I had this "oh crap" moment. He let me off with a warning. Nice guy. Not a cop, but I made one laugh once when I was a little too drunk and laying on the sidewalk in a bar district. "Son, what exactly do you think you're doing here?" as he taps my shoulder with his boot.
"Hopefully I'm reminding you of someone else you like because this was just the worst first impression."
He laughed and helped me find some Gatorade and my friends instead of arresting me for public intoxication. "So, Officer Brian, if you're out there, things are going much better, and thanks for being cool with me when things were just starting to get better."
100% true story. A few friends and I go out for our buddy's 21st birthday party, and he proceeds to get rickety wrecked. I'm talking like doesn't know his own name wrecked. So we lose him. Josh is gone. The next morning, I get a phone call and it's Josh. Apparently, he had left the bar, wandered for a while, found a construction site, and fallen asleep on a stack of plywood. He was awakened by a nudge to the shoulder and he jumps up, still kinda drunk, and there's a cop standing beside him. The cop asks him, "Son, what the heck are you doing? It's dangerous to be sleeping out here, especially in this part of town." Josh is standing there in khakis and a button-down shirt, but he's clearly still inebriated. He bends over, picks up the hard hat, puts it on, and says, "I'm just early for work." The cop bursts out laughing and lets him call a friend to pick him up. Josh sounds hideous. Oh, I want that to be true. If it is, it's the best drunk story I've ever heard.
I'm not a cop, probably closer to a criminal, but one night about 6 years ago I had a local cop near peeing himself. I was walking home from the pub one night when I decided I'd rather get some snacks and call a taxi. I walk up to a gas and convenience store and open the door. I noticed no one was at the cash register, so figured they were in the bathroom. I grab a sandwich, some chips, and a giant piece of beef jerky and go to the checkout. I call out hello a couple of times and then jumped out of my skin when the alarm starts to go off. I panic and start to run out of the door, and then I stop and grab my food. Then I say to myself, "Wait, I haven't actually done anything." So I pull out my cell phone and call 911.
Hello? 911?
I think I accidentally broke into the Ultramar. About 10 minutes later, the police show up and cuff me and begin searching the entire area. One cop stayed with me and I told him I didn't actually do anything, but he just says, well, he'll be the judge of that. When the manager arrives to review the security cameras, well, she shows up and is a total B-word. I don't think she likes being woken up at 3 a.m. Well, the cop comes out of the office, laughing so hard he's crying, uncuffs me and apologizes, then gives me a ride home and a trip to the drive-thru. I was flagged down by a random motorist. I contacted the driver and he advised me there was a gentleman running out into the street and throwing rocks at cars near the water tower. I advised radio and requested county to respond since it would be on a county road. I approached the area and didn't see any pedestrians in the road or anyone throwing rocks. However, I did see a lady parked on the shoulder, making what appeared to be a frantic phone call. I pull up next to her and asked if she'd seen the rock thrower. She advised she did and pointed at another roadway. By the time county shows up, we both proceed in the direction the second motorist advised. The deputy and I make a right turn and sure enough, there he is, undressed, with his boxers down around his ankles, standing square in the middle of the road. The deputy and I exit our cars and start walking toward the guy. As I'm walking, I notice a pair of blue jeans entangled in a barbed wire fence to my left. It would seem he'd attempted to climb the barbed wire fence but got hung up and gave up on the lower half of his Canadian tuxedo. The deputy and I quickly took him into custody and asked him why he was running around the roadway scaring the local citizens. He says, "What would you do if a gay guy gave you a bunch of money?" I had no answer, so I then asked him what he was high on and he explained, "Family issues," and I got a good laugh out of it. My friend of 16 years at the time's dad was a cop. His son is driving downtown Chicago and does a U-turn almost directly in front of a cop. Said cop pulls him over and sees that he has a police organization sticker on his windshield. The cop said, "Who's the cop?" The kid says,
You are, officer."
"I meant in your family, idiot." The bud's answer sounds like something I would say in this situation. Funny that family members of cops can also be complete jelly-legged morons when they think they're in trouble with the law. I got pulled over once. The cop came up to the car and saw I had a bag stuffed under my front seat. He said in a really heavy Jersey accent, "What's in the bag?" In my fakest Jersey accent, I said, "Socks, officer, you want to see 'em?" He started laughing so hard he just told me to get out of there. Friend is riding with her sister to a friend's bridal shower. The 5-year-old niece, a total sassy pants, is in the car seat behind her mum. Driver. Police pulls mum over for speeding and asks, "Where are you headed in such a hurry?" The 5-year-old rolls down the window, looks at the cop with her mum's sunglasses on and states, rather loudly,
"We were going to my auntie's party. She's getting married and I'm going to be the flower girl,"
and then rolls that window up like the starlet she is. The cop got the giggles and couldn't ticket her mum because, well, she was obviously just chauffeuring a star. When I was a cop, my partner was giving a man a field sobriety test after the man had wrecked his car. After denying being drunk several times, he said, "Okay, look, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've had nothing to drink, but I am high as a B-word." We all laughed and he went to jail. Got called to a domestic. A married couple had split, UK, and the husband was living elsewhere. It was a weekend and he'd come to collect his young child to sleep over that night. A childminder was looking after said child while the wife was out at work. The husband was parked on the narrow driveway and the wife arrived. She blocked him out of sheer nastiness. That's when we were called by the husband. The husband knew the law and wanted police to witness that no offense was caused. Husband places young child safely into his car, lovely new BMW estate, whilst childish wife screamed and laughed that he couldn't go anywhere. The husband smiles at us, the 2 officers, and Julie goes rallying across the front garden. I'm talking through 6-foot laurel bushes, across beautiful rose beds, the lot. The wife screamed at us now as the husband had left, wanted us to prosecute the husband for destroying her beautiful garden. We said no, it's his garden too, and no people were injured. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, or if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Genius, give Am I the Jerk a shot. Everything linked in the description.